So, does it need to be mum that stays at home with the child? Is the child somehow disadvantaged if it's not their birth mother looking after them? From a research point of view, the answer is pretty much no, they're not disadvantaged. Although when baby's born, clearly they know who their mother is. They've been inside the wharetakata for 9 months. They know mum's smell, mum's taste, the sound of mum's voice. They also know the sound of the voices of everyone living with mum in the last trimester of the pregnancy. But yeah, so when we're saying when the baby's born, certainly there is a preference for the biological mother. They do these horrible experiments in America where you hold up a newborn baby and got mum on one side calling and say the doctor on the other and get them both to call out to the baby, and the baby always orientates towards the mother. Because of that, they recognise. So yep, baby seems attached to mum or partially attached to mum, certainly recognises mum when they're born. But the research shows us that the baby, once they're born, is really just looking for whoever's going to talk to them most in the environment. It's what the literature calls the most responsive person. So what that means is that if mum's largely ignoring the baby and changing the nappy but paying very little attention to it, and then say mum's got a male boarder who's no relation to the baby, but he spends more time with the baby and he talks to the baby and he goos and gars and is responsive, the baby will attach to that male boarder who's a man and no biological relation rather than the biological mother. Really what the baby's looking for when they're born is a responsive caregiver. 9 times out of 10 mum is going to be the most responsive person because we sort of socialise girls and women to be more responsive to babies. But it does mean in a family where mum's a bit, flat-faced, doesn't use much expression, is, not a talker, is very introverted, is going to not talk to the baby much, and she happens to marry like dad who's an over-animated PE teacher, then in that situation the baby would be far better off at home with dad, who's going to be interactive and talking to the baby and giving them much better data. So that's why we use the term dyad. Dyad just comes from the word dialogue, and a dialogue's normally between 2 people. So like if it wasn't a dyad, if it was 3 people, it'd be a triad. Dyad is just a way of saying a 2-way relationship, and the reason they say dyad is because it doesn't have to be mum. It can be taua, it can be paua, it can be whoever is the most responsive person in that environment. The baby's development will get everything they need from having a loving, trusting relationship. It doesn't have to be the biological mother.